Welcome to the Auto Fixation Podcast, a loud pedal production with your host Mark Farouk and Matt Powers.
Welcome to another episode of the Auto Fixation Podcast. I'm Mark Farouk. With me is Matt Powers, joined by special guest Andrew Langley.
Fire.
This is a production of loudpedalblog.com. So check us out on all the social media platforms, our website, all that good stuff. So it's been a while. We took a long break between our last episode. We got busy with a thing called life and job.
Supply chain
crunch hit us directly. Couldn't be here, but we're back.
Before we get started, I gotta know, Andrew, what's that background? That's a cool background.
That's
for those listening, we're on Zoom, so we're not in person. And nice background.
And it's so nice he froze.
An event or as long as I'm sorry about that.
There we go. Start over.
A few months ago, I went to the Holly High Voltage event at.
You're still good.
A few months ago, I went to the Holly High Voltage event at Sonoma Raceway, and I was hoping to see this car, and it was there. It was the Porsche 935 all electric, built by Bisimoto of Bisimoto fame. I remember the first time I saw a Bisimoto car. It was a minivan. I believe it was a Honda Odyssey. Mark and I were at
I've seen that. Doesn't that have like over 1,000 horsepower?
Oh, that thing's been on every show. Yeah, it was. And so that was a glimpse into kind of his, mechanical genius.
Isn't he a self-taught engineer, or did he go to school to be?
I think he has an engineering background, but I don't know if I don't know if he went to school for cars.
Yeah,
I think he was. I know he was I believe Southern California tuner scene in the 90s, working on little Hondas and stuff, but. He's definitely embraced all things electric. I think seeing the future and being in the industry and participating in SEMA and developing these cars, and I think he has his feet firmly planted in both fossil fuels and electric, but growing in electric. There's just so much more future there.
I think it's cool. What were the specs on it?
1 billion horsepower. I don't have it in front of me. And they are going to hold another event, I think, this year, and I think we should all go if they do, because to
look at the future.
It was a bit cold, and it was a first time event. It was underattended, I'll say, and like the stuff I saw there was absolutely mind blowing. And I think if they, on a second attempt with more participation and more fans there, I think they will convert untold masses of people to electric, because last week I watched a Motor Trend show about, they took the new Rivian across country. Three teams of journalists took the Rivian across country.
I want one.
And man, you can't not like it. I mean, you can say words, you can protest a little bit, but when it sinks into your brain, there's no reason not to be at least intellectually curious about electric vehicles of all stripes,
I've been looking at it for the Defender. I mean, you guys know I imported the Defender. And I'm having problems with the Air Resource Board of getting the motor approved, so I'm not going to be able to register in California. But an electric motor would be a great workaround, and so
that'd be a cool project.
They're making crate motors now, electric crate motors. You can just drop in, put some battery packs. I mean, I don't have the technical abilities nor the.
But that's coming. That's coming. I don't know how soon, but that's coming.
Yeah, but Matt, that hasn't stopped you from doing all the work on your cars anyway. So
that's true.
Let's not put the brakes on now. And say, it's my lack of technical ability.
What I can do is brakes, and then proceeded to break my own brake calipers as I was removing them.
Oh man, it's deep. You're in deep. But the one thing that really struck me about this event was, they had corporate sponsors and they had people out there hawking their wares. But what was the neatest thing to see was the homegrown stuff. That was, because it told me there's a tuner scene for this. I mean, you can go race a Model 3. And entry level, you could drive it there, drive it on the track, and drive it home. And a Model 3, a stock car. Get all your rocks off, have a great time. I mean, what a wonderful thing. But these people with a little technical know-how, nobody gets it 100% right the first time. They're swapping out gas motors for electric motors and batteries. And you know what? I'm sure some of them are engineers, but I'm sure a lot of them aren't.
Well, I have a feeling what's going to convert a lot of people to electric by going to this event is going to be the price of gas they're going to pay to get to the event.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. Yeah.
I'm not going to say how much it would cost me to go there and
but you got to
my
think
battleship, but yeah, it becomes a new new thing to account for.
It's not a lie. But anyway, like, that is a beautiful car. I mean, I'm a freak for Porsche anyway, but man, what a I mean, if you've never seen a car like that one's extra. It's extra everything.
Yeah, his YouTube channel is great. He's got a bunch of fun stuff up there. Totally nice guy. You accosted him at Pebble Beach.
Motor oil. I mean,
you saw him at Pebble Beach.
He's great.
Yeah. Hey, so I wanted to move on to something, and it's a question that I've received. Andrew, I know you probably received it. Is part of what spun off the podcast and got us started in this is the Loud Pedal blog, and our access to various events, but specifically our access to racing events at racetracks. Because periodically I get questions from folks of, oh, how can I do that? Or can I come with you? And I thought it would be good to talk about, okay, we didn't just show up yesterday and with a camera and say, oh, let us shoot on your racetrack right next to the fence where cars are going by at 150 miles an hour. This was something that took a lot of work and effort. Clearly, this is a story so good that Matt Powers has walked away from the camera. Off. He just walked off the set.
He said, here, look at my recessed lighting. Golly.
That is unfair. I'm on kids' duty. And
okay. So you had to say.
I had to work on, and I didn't want to interrupt the podcast. And I'm sorry if I messed up your flow here, Mark.
Well, as long as I don't hear any screaming, we know you're doing a good job.
I was listening intently.
He came back over to defend his virtue real fast.
Production quality is A fucking plus.
That's right. That's right. Quality control.
Yeah. So just I wanted to talk about that for a minute, just to mention, it's not something that just starts out of nowhere. The amount of work and effort that goes into it, and if folks want to do it, that's great. Encourage people to do it, but times are a lot different than kind of when we started. This ever how many years ago we started?
It was many years. It was probably a decade ago.
Yeah. Now when you're trying to put together your portfolio of photos to show someone what you're doing, you're competing with hundreds of others that show up to the racetrack who shoot from public areas that is accessible to everyone. And a lot of them are really good and probably should be on the track taking photos, but either they don't want to, they don't have time, they don't know how to ask the right way. And part of my motivation to talk about this, I'm just kind of tired of the question, like, I'm just going to take some noob along to the track and put them next to a hot track with a camera and say, go to work.
Possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cause such offense when I asked you that, Mark. I'm really sorry.
It's not you.
I would say every race weekend, I get at least one question. And that's either when I'm walking out of an area that you need some sort of pass to get into, or when someone looks at my ticket badge and it's different than theirs and it says media on it. We get it all the time.
Ooh, you're with the media.
How dangerous is it? I mean,
it's not safe. I mean, it is safe. It is a very controlled environment, but that's not to say that there aren't a lot of externalities.
I mean, I look at it this way. I feel sorry for anyone, and I've seen it before. I've met photographers that who are working the track who like do football. They do football games. their learning curve is huge, because I think to like be safe, let alone like to take good photos, but to be safe, you have to know a lot about racing, the racing line, where folks should be braking, because you need, when I am next to the track or shooting, I'm always looking for little cues that something bad is about to happen. And sometimes that's a car not on the right racing line, or a certain sound you hear, or a late braking, or, you know, cars that are battling for first and second position. And so you have to know racing, I think, to be safe. Not exclusively, but if you should learn racing if you're going to be safe.
Have you had any close calls?
Probably my closest, I was an event they don't do anymore, but the San Jose Grand Prix. This was pre-Loud Pedal. I was shooting for someone else, and that experience helped me build a portfolio that enabled us to do this. So the San Jose Grand Prix was back before IndyCar, there was Champ Car. It was a Champ Car race on the streets of downtown San Jose. So it was set up, just picture like kind of a Long Beach Grand Prix layout. City streets.
Very similar.
Fencing all over the place. And so the photographers, basically the photographer holes were these rectangular cutouts in the fence. And you don't hang outside that, but it's like an open window that you shoot through. And I've always worn sunglasses when I'm shooting for the purpose to protect my eyes. And this situation like proved that point right away. I was shooting where I'm looking at the cars coming toward me off of a corner, and then they pass kind of under me, so to speak, because where this window is at. And as one of the cars passed, a pebble shot up and bounced off the edge of my glasses and off my cheek. And it left like it stung me, and it left like a nice little welt. But if I had not been wearing sunglasses and it had hit me directly on the face, it probably would have pierced the skin. And if it didn't hit me in the eye, I mean, it would have blinded me.
Nate Plissken, right there.
So I'd be a pirate right now.
Awesome. Yeah, this is my buddy. You know my buddy. Remember, you met him. He's the one that looks like a pirate. Yep.
So that's the one I can really remember. I've seen cars wreck right in front of me. I've luckily never had to run out of the way of a crash or run out away from the wall. But I've seen situations where even a low speed, I think it was 2018 at Sonoma Raceway, it was a World Challenge GT race, and I think it was a McLaren, spun out at relatively low speed, hit the K-wall, and it pushed, the K-wall is a series of these giant concrete barriers, and it pushed it back about 3 feet. And it had the photographer been standing back, and it was in a photo zone. So there had been photographers there earlier in the session. Had someone been standing next to that wall, I mean, they're done when that thing comes crashing. So I've seen lots of close calls. Luckily, have not been on the receiving end of too many. And
I was just thinking about, you're talking about this, and like there's some safety precautions. You're behind the wall and you got the hole that you're shooting through. But I was thinking about rally racing, about how
they're all crazy. No, they're just crazy.
Yeah,
they're not smart people. No, it's great. That's a different.
Yeah, but rally race, that's on my list. I want to go to at least one. I want to see at least one in person. I'm not going to stand next to the track like the crazy people do. I'm going to find a hillside somewhere, but
yeah, right.
I got to see one. And and we have different perspectives too, because I probably shoot much more next to the track than Andy does, but he does some as well, and a lot more pit stuff, which the pits brings in a whole nother level of danger. You're talking about flying equipment, tires, wrenches.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because the point I was going to make was you shoot mostly track, I shoot mostly pits. But let me tell you, in both situations, we have people just feet away from us, or in some places in the same space, who are wearing fire suits and helmets. Okay, maybe that doesn't, maybe we shouldn't be there, but there are rules. We have to obey all the proximity rules to the pits and the teams and all that stuff. But in reality, people exist in these spaces. The guys who work for the networks, the network photographers, the bespoke track photographers, other publications who get, I don't know, they have scooters, and I think they can do more. No, they can't really go to different places on the track, but they can do the hot pits. They can jump over the wall in some cases. Mm-hmm. Those guys are wearing guys and gals, excuse me, are wearing full protective gear, and they're just inches closer to harm than I am and Mark is. And it's a lot of luck, to be very honest. But like Mark said, you have to be aware of it. Once bitten, twice shy. Mark had one experience where he, that could have ended really poorly. Well, he'll never do that again, and it'll affect his body attitude and altitude when he's positioning himself. I remember the scariest thing I ever saw. I didn't actually see it happen, but we were doing a media training for, I think it was IndyCar a few years ago, and they said the media guy was fun, but he got really fun. And he's like, if we see anything like this happen again, you'll never work in this town. Da, 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 da. And they showed a picture of a guy who I think he had swapped a credential with a partner or something like that. So he wasn't even really accredited to be where he was. And this picture was an empty pit lane, and his back was to the cars coming into the pit. And he was invested in this shot through a big lens. I mean, it was so obvious he was oblivious to everything else around him. And these Indy cars were coming in, and I was just going, oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't know how something didn't happen. I mean, it's just the craziest thing I've ever seen. And by the grace of God, nothing happened to this guy. But, well, he never worked in that town again. But, yeah.
Remember that Formula One race maybe about 6-7 years ago where a tire came off on the pit lane?
Which one?
You got the cameraman. There was.
I remember that.
He had his back to the car. Or something. And,
there was a season in, I can't remember, it might have been Champ Car or early IndyCar when IndyCar was renamed. There was a weird year where there were pit games between teams, and cars were like buzzing each other's pits. And like there was a spate of crew being hurt, being run over, being hit by tires, all this other stuff. And it was just like, it was really hard to believe with the amount of safety that they have at these tracks and how they even tout it. The safety crews are revered. But there was this really weird season where a lot of people got hurt. And it was just like the most unreal thing, because they're trained in this. I mean, this is, it's a fine line.
And there's certain spots at, Sonoma or Laguna Seca that I could shoot if I wanted to, and I won't, or I'll maybe take a couple of shots, but I can't. It's the danger premium in certain locations is just not worth it, because some are high, like you're there and there's some protection between, but you're in a high impact zone, so you have like a split second to dive right or left, and if you guess wrong, you're done. And so, I don't have to have the shot that, I don't work for the LA Times or, whoever covers motorsports these days.
To your credit, and maybe because of your fear of death, you're one of my favorite track photographers, especially at Laguna Seca, because there are few people who show me shots that I've never seen before. And you're my guy. Like I all credit to you. Like whatever you've done to avoid
that's
death.
The nicest thing I've heard.
You're doing. I think it's paying off.
If you're listening and you want to see these photos, go to the Loud Pedal blog.
That's absolutely. Check our Instagram page as well. Well, that's one of the challenges.
You see on track is Mark Farouk, and he deserves all the credit.
Well, that's one of the things, though, is having seen the work that gets published in big newspapers and magazines that have to cover these events. It's boring. It's a standard static looking shot. And so every time I'm shooting, I try my best to do something unique or do something that I don't see anyone else doing, and plus, I mean, now that we've been doing this for so long, you know when you're being boring, when you're just, I know when I'm standing next to the track taking a shot just to take a shot, because I'm like, well, I guess this is what we need to do an article. But I don't feel any creativity.
It doesn't spark joy.
Yeah. And I know when I'm cheating myself and cheating our readers, which we try never to do.
Don't cheat the readers, Mark. Well, no, let's go back. You brought up the point about like what's different. We're more on the publication side than the photographic side. Everyone I talk to about when they ask me about access and media and all that stuff, Mark and I, this whole thing started out, the Loud Pedal started out because I think we got yelled at by our significant others about posting too many car pictures on our Facebook pages. And they were right, and we still do. But it kind of focused our energies on the thing that became the Loud Pedal. And, the common thing with the Facebook was we were going to do it anyway. Right. We were going to at least take pictures, and then we are probably going to say stuff about it. And then we were going to, get buy-in from our friends who like racing, and like we were going to chat about it. And that's kind of how it came together loosely. But we were going to do it anyway. And Mark did all the applications for the credentials and stuff. And I think we got no. We're not going to issue a ticket or a hard card, which is a year-long pass or anything like that.
Be prepared to be told no. But also, be prepared to have, like I said before, a portfolio of work. I mean, I was lucky to have shot before for an actual publication that gave me a portfolio. So the first time we were told no, part of the rebuttal was like, well, hold on a second. Here's images I just took trackside in an IndyCar race last year at Soma Raceway. So you're saying we're not good enough to take photos at this event, which I wouldn't say was a lower tier event. It was an event we wanted to cover, but it was like in the grand scheme of events, it would have been considered by most folks not the same tier as IndyCar. That's debatable, and we could argue about that. And so that helped. And so that's part of when people ask that question, oh, I want to get into this, like, if you really want to do this, build your portfolio, show that you have talent first. And then the next step is kind of showing that you have some common sense and are not going to do something stupid.
Well, it sounds like if you're trying to use taking photos as an excuse to get free entrance into places, there's probably easier ways to do it, or just buy the ticket.
Unless you are a savant, unless you really have, I don't know what, some magic. Everyone's got a camera. Like we up it a little bit. We write words, right? And at that time when we started getting credentials, it was because of that. I mean, anyone can take pictures, but we could actually write about it. And when we have these conversations with people at the track, they either want to take a picture. Well, actually, they just want to take pictures.
Yeah.
I say something like, well, you have to do something for it. You have to write about it because everyone can take pictures. And people go, I can't help you there because you can submit an application and maybe they say yes, but
yeah, it's got to be more than, if you're a quote unquote social media influencer, you'll get invited to, you could probably get into Pebble Beach as media, as an influencer, the Quail, which is another huge event.
That too, yeah.
Lots of big events, SEMA, different shows. But at a racetrack, it's being just an influencer on social media is typically not enough, right? And part of it is the track wants somebody who is going to write words or write a story or do video and talk about it, because they part of that trade-off, right, is advertising what's occurring at the track, getting people excited to want to come witness things. And, we try to be creative with what we write about. We've gotten some actually good, we always send our work back to the track and say, here's what we published. And we've gotten some good responses. A few years ago on one of the IndyCar events, we covered the head media person at Laguna Seca responded like one of the best write-ups he had seen, because we try to bring in, if you go on a site and read some of our articles, we try to bring in the atmosphere and kind of just how the event feels, not necessarily like you'd say, Matt, car number 1 did this and this was the top 3 and this happened and this happened, not this kind of the same
and that's all
old
true,
story.
and that has to be covered.
Yeah, and we cover that, but we try to also say, okay, here's factually what happened, but here's kind of what the feeling was while we were there. But it's a lost art. I mean, video's becoming more and more a big thing, so less words and people just do videos.
Is that why we're doing podcasts? We want to cut against the.
That's right. We want to do something new, and everybody's doing it. And you know what I've heard? I've heard especially wives love podcasts, and kind of just how the event feels, not necessarily like you'd say, Matt, car number 1 did this, and this was the top 3, and this happened, and this happened. Not this kind of the same
and that's
old
all true,
story.
and that has to be covered.
Yeah, and we cover that, but we try to also say, okay, here's factually what happened, but here's kind of what the feeling was while we were there. But it's a lost art. I mean, video's becoming more and more a big thing, so less words and people just do videos.
Is that why we're doing podcasts? We want to cut against the.
That's right. We want to do something new, and everybody's doing it. And you know what I've heard? I've heard especially wives love podcasts.
Why is that?
Because it's a podcast.
Because it's a podcast. No, I'm totally. I have no idea.
My wife is
what
crazy
to talk
about podcasts.
I thought there was a punchline there.
No.
Mark. You were being ironic.
No, yeah, I was.
No, I think you were literally describing my wife, who is listening to a podcast right now. I know because she's my wife, and it's this time of night she listens to podcasts.
They do.
They're about murder, which makes me sleep a little bit on edge with one eye open.
I don't know if they like that we're doing podcasts, but they do like podcast.
Yeah.
Was it your wife that gave us 1 star, Andrew?
She wouldn't listen to our podcast. She has standards and only likes murder stuff.
Because, yeah.
It's like I tell people, you don't have to listen. Just like it. Just download it. I don't care if you listen to it. Just like us. Follow us.
Please. Somebody sponsor us.
Yeah, sponsor us.
You know, I hearken back to my greatest media moment, Mark, and I'll ride this wave as long as I can. We have been rejected for Pebble Beach for a million times, and it was like, okay, we kind of got used to it and everything. But Mark got the rejection email, and he sent it to me, and I hit back at him. I said, like, give me 2. I said, don't respond. Give me 2 hours. And I rattled off this stupid thing, and it was just like, hey. We're not road and track. We're not car and driver. We're not a lot of things. We're 2 middle-aged dads from Sacramento. We have a following. We have we have a local set of diehards who like us, who follow us, who we interact with all the time at shows.
We're not noobs. We're not idiots.
Yeah. So, that's what we have to offer. I mean, we don't have pumped up, Instagram number. And the media director, one of the media directors said, you can buy Instagram, you can buy numbers. That's like, they're not stupid. They know what they're looking at. They know what a real following looks like. They, before they do issue credentials, they do their homework. But I just leveled with this person and I said, we offer what we offer. And they said, yes. And it was the first time
they totally changed their mind. It was funny. The lady wrote back was like, it was something like, wow, like, yeah, based on your email, we're going to change our mind. It was great.
And so that's the month, and that's what I tell people if I meet these people at the track and they ask me the question about media and all this stuff. I was like, well, and Mark said it earlier, you're gonna hear no. That's kind of like life too. But push back. You're gonna do it anyway. If you love auto sport, if you love motorsports, you love racing, you're gonna go.
Yeah.
You're gonna talk about it. Do something constructive with it. Worst they can do is say no. You're still gonna be there and have a great time.
Well, I think
speaking of persistence, can I quickly change the topic here?
Certainly.
Yes. I need to gripe a little bit right at the end of this podcast.
That's fine.
I needed to get my Polestar serviced, and there's some issues with the GPS.
Oh boy!
The backup cameras. There's some paint defects that I found. There's some rattles. There's a few different issues.
Ooh.
I had to call these guys 4 times over the period of 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I kept getting like transferred.
Guess who won't be sponsoring this podcast?
No.
Polestar.
Finally,
I don't have one yet.
Finally, I got a call back today. And they're going to come and they are going to pick up the car in a week or something. It's decent. At least I don't have
check is in the mail there, Matt Powers.
But then they're going to give me a freaking Enterprise rent-a-car. I'm going to get some Kia or something.
What?
I find that unfair.
Oh, so you're giving up your electric
Volvo at the very least, and I should get the Polestar 1 at the best. I don't know.
So you're giving up your electric car. They're going to replace with a gas burning rental car.
I'm going to tell them that it needs to be a Tesla or something from Enterprise.
I'm sure they would do that. I'm sure they have a ready supply of Teslas for you.
Terrible.
Would you like a Model 3?
Take
that Kia.
That's great. Oh wow, yeah. That's not. That's.
Well, you segued way out of racing and journalism.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I needed to gripe, and I know that we're up against our time here.
Yeah. Well,
Mark's a clever editor.
Well, hey, in great news, in news that just tops what you said, I finally get the second key for my car next month.
Hey, all right.
So things are right in the world. 2 keys. First world problems. Hey, at least we didn't spend this podcast complaining about Apple CarPlay.
Yeah. One of my favorite podcasts, and I won't name it. There's a lot of CarPlay talk, and I get it, but I don't care.
Yep. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you again.
You know what I'm saying?
In a couple of weeks.
Alrighty.
All right.